We're just going to go through some Nebraska scheme stuff just to quickly. This is not going to be very in-depth, but there's some people that watch my channel that know nothing about football. So I'm going to give them like a very basic kind of rundown here. Shouldn't be too long, but kind of want to just get through it. So we're going to kind of go through, start with some offensive basics. Going to go the pros. We're going to talk about what a pro style offense is, which is what Nebraska runs. We're going to talk about what the personnel groups mean. So if I mention 11 personnel, you're not lost. Okay. We're going to talk about different sets, I guess, and what they mean. And I got some pictures to go with that. Then we're going to talk about a couple different run schemes. Okay. Then we're going to move on to defense as well. We're going to start on the offensive side. Okay. A pro style offense. It's generally a very balanced attack. This is what Nebraska wanted to run more of last year, but I think we're going to see that a lot more this year with Dylan Raiola at quarterback as opposed to and the other quarterbacks we had last year. The very balanced attack is designed to keep the defense off balance, and guessing is to, I mean, they can't just completely zone in. And I feel like that was something Nebraska struggled with last year, as everyone knew we were running. And I mean, if you watch any of my breakdowns from last year, the big passes that we had were honestly kind of lucky that the defense bit on the run so hard. The formations of pro style offense can be very complex and change from play to play. I don't think Nebraska runs too complex of an offense, at least from what we've seen so far. But formationally, they're going to throw a lot of different things at you. The running backs, I mean, hey, you guys know this, are going to be asked to catch the ball as well. They're not just going to be downhill runners, which I think Nebraska has a very diverse group at running back right now. The quarterback in a pro style offense doesn't need to be mobile at all, which I don't think Dylan is too. I think he can get himself out of trouble. Again, traditionally, he's not going to be asked to run very often, if at all. Last year was a little bit different because we didn't have that true arm talent quarterback, but I fully believe this year will be a lot different. There will be times he's going to need to throw out of the pocket on rollouts, like design rollouts, or he's going to be, in pro style offense, you're going to have to hit passes outside the numbers quite a bit with flood concepts, with crossing concepts, some go routes. We'll talk about that more at some point. Passing scheme was kind of hard to show just because we haven't seen the passing schemes that Nebraska ran last year. I do not believe are going to, I think we're going to see a lot more traditional approach this year. I've talked about that a little bit before. So I didn't want to kind of try and break down the passing schemes just because I don't think they're going to be very, very relevant this season, but I do think the run schemes are going to carry over. Okay. The personnel groups is just a quick little tidbit I had in here. Nebraska normally runs a traditional, like very traditional 11 personnel, and all that means is one tight end, one running back, right? I expect that very much again this season. Obviously, the depth chart they broke down showed exactly that. Z, X, two outside receivers, a slot receiver, and then one tight end. I expect that. Nebraska did run some of the 12 personnel, which is one back and two tight ends. That's all that means. And at the goal line in heavy situations, they did ran a 13 personnel. I think we could probably see that in the goal line set again this season. I don't see why we wouldn't. But I just wanted to throw in this quick little tidbit is that all 11 or 12, it's just the running backs in the formation and the tight ends in the formation. That's all that means. I just wanted to throw that out there just in case there's any confusion. If I'm talking about that in the future, I can point you guys to this video. Some different sets that I'm going to throw some terminology. There's more, but these are just some basic ones just from looking. Here, I can throw up some graphics for you now. Twins formation. All twins formation is going to really mean is the two receivers in the formation are going to be opposite the tight end. Right now in this, I have the tight end lined up on the right side on all of these, but that doesn't necessarily, if this was flipped, it'd work the same way. But all that really means is the two receivers in the formation are going to be opposite. It could also look like this and have two tight ends in the formation opposite the two receivers. All that means is the two receivers in the formation are opposite the tight end or running backs, everything else. There's not going to be a receiver on the tight end side. That's all the twins is going to mean. The ace formation, that's a very basic scheme, a basic formation. You can run a lot of different ways. All that really means is the Z and the X receiver are going to be on opposite sides. A lot of teams run it different, but I'll say how I've ran it in the past is the Z has generally been either on the wide side of the field or just always on the right side, depending on the level. But I'll say Z on the wide side, X on the boundary side. And then the tight end and the slot are on opposite sides. That can look a lot of different ways. But just the picture I kind of threw at you guys shows that tight end on the right. You guys can see that. The Z is off the line of scrimmage since the tight end is on the line of scrimmage. The X, which is lined up away from the tight end, will be on. Then the slot would be off. These formations are listed in like under center. If they go in shotgun, it's the exact same thing. Doesn't change anything. These are just the pictures that I found when I was looking for a couple pictures to throw at you guys. And if that tight end is like flexed out, that's what we'd call that, is flexed out to the hash or even pass, it's still going to be ace. It's still going to be a basic 2x2. All I mean by 2x2 is you see two receivers on the left, two receivers on the right. It's very balanced. This is what coaches or a lot of people call ace. That's all that's going to mean. Trips, all trips is going to mean there's a lot of different variations of trips we can talk about in the future, but I'll just say for trips formation, it's going to have all three eligible receivers to one side, and one's going to be solo on the other. So for this, we have with the tight end, we got our Z and our slot, and then our X on the opposite side. Again, if this was flipped, it'd be the same. There's a lot of different variations of trips, but I didn't want to have to break these down. You guys might get bored, but we'll talk about that if we have good plays to break down this year. We'll talk about the 50 different variations of trips. You can go through Trey and all those. But last thing I want to throw at you, because I think Nebraska's going to try and run this a bit more this year, is going to be a bunch concept. Bunch, all that means is bunched in together. It's generally towards the ball. In the text I put towards the ball, but I'll show you an example of it not. But this is all I mean by that, is it's going to be bunched up. You can see the Y and all the receivers kind of in a triangle looking thing. That's generally how it's going to look. Like I said, most teams will run this to the ball because you're trying to condense the formation. But I don't think Nebraska will do it a ton, but we may see this year as well, with that honestly out towards the numbers. I think that's a very good way to run that, and I've ran it that way in the past. So those are just some basic sets you can kind of expect a little bit. Different run schemes. We've talked about this before. Nebraska runs a lot of counter. They run a lot of split zone. So all that split zone means is that generally an off Y or an H back is going to be going the opposite direction. I should have had a graphic for that, and I'm sorry I didn't pull it up. Basically, we'll talk about when it gets there. Basically, it's an inside zone concept with a little bit different, splitting up the defense. You're leaving the backside guy unblocked, and that H back's going to come knock him out. Counter, you guys should have a general idea what that means. Duo is just basically double teaming all the way to the next level. It's a little bit different than inside zone. We'll talk about both of those as we kind of get more. Nebraska also runs a very good version of power, which is pretty much just like that pulling guard to knock out that outside guy. But we just didn't see it a ton. But I mean, that's just because you can't run that play. Every player, you're going to see it. But I hope we see that more because it was a very effective play last year. And it worked a lot in our play action stuff as well. Moving on to some defensive basics. Again, I just kind of want to throw some basic stuff at you guys. What is the 3-3 defense? If you do not know, all it means is 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. Then we're going to have 5 DBs spread throughout the field, right? It's a very versatile defense. You have to have athleticism and fresh bodies in basically every position. That's why you see Nebraska do a lot of substituting. You see a lot of guys that are going to play a lot of reps. Even though they're the starters, they're still probably going to play like 50% of the reps because you have to have fresh bodies in here. Our defensive line, okay, it must be a strength, and it is a strength. So I kind of want to just throw what our defensive line kind of does. The anchor is our strong side defensive end. And all that strong side means is generally the run strength is going to be to the tight end side. So there's a lot of different ways our anchors are going to line up. It's generally going to be in a 5 technique, which is right outside the tackle, or he'll be lined up right inside the tight end. The anchor's main position, not main position, but I guess main goal or thing is going to be a lot of times taking out double teams, just fighting through those double teams. You're going to see that a lot from Ty Robinson. A tackle, a lot will be in a 0, and all a 0 means that's our nose tackle. That's like the polar bear, right? Think of polar bear. All the 0 means is head up right on the center. Head up right on the center. Or a shade, which would mean again, if it's maybe an overload or we kind of want to shade, all that means he's going to shade slightly inside to a strong side. So if he was shading to the right, he'd go right into the side of the right to the right shoulder of the guard, if that makes sense, just right inside. And the end is going to be our weak side defensive end, and he'll basically be in a 5 technique just right outside that tackle's shoulder. A lot of times he would be an outside contained guy on that side, but not always, not always. Well, we've seen kind of some different things, but I just kind of want to throw out what those 3 positions mean, just in case I think you guys have tackle and end down. But just in case on Sunday, if I'm like, oh, look at this play from our anchor, and you don't know what I'm talking about, just kind of wanted to throw out what an anchor was. The jack linebacker, there's still some confusion about our jack linebacker. Basically a hybrid linebacker. We'll see a lot of pass rush things from him. We'll see him walked up a lot when we walk into our 4-2. I have a video on my channel. You need to go check out our defensive changes that we made last year. Go check that out if you haven't. Must be a very versatile player. In the last film breakdown, you guys saw how important that was with Prince Will being able to fake like he's blitzing, back out into coverage, change a direction, go make a big play. That jack linebacker has to be very versatile, and I think we got a great group to do that. I think we actually have a couple really good guys at that. Defensive coverages. Okay. This is where I know a lot of people are confused, so I want to kind of just give you a couple quick terminology just so we have an idea. I don't want to spend all day going into this because I still want to talk UTEP stuff, but just some different things. Nebraska runs a lot of cover 1 and cover 3. And all cover 1 is one safety, generally our free safety, playing over the top, taking anything going deep. Everybody else is manned up across the board. We'll also run some cover 0, which means 5 for 5. So 5 people man to man to man. And then all the other 6 are blitzing the quarterback. But we like to run a lot of cover 1 with that free safety taking anything that gets beat deep, and everyone else is manned up. But what we really like to do is run a lot of cover 3. So I got a quick picture I'll throw out here. All cover 3 is you're going to see generally 2 guys in the hole, which is basically from tackle to tackle, or tackle to tight end, I guess, in that middle of the field from like, I don't know, a couple yards off the line of scrimmage to 5, 6, 7, 8 yards. Okay. You got flats, you got curl flats. That's going to be generally outside the hashes. That's going to be the zone. The flats is going to be more at the line of scrimmage. The curl would be generally right behind that flats. The thirds you guys should be able to figure out. We got the deep, it's basically splitting the field into thirds. Got safety generally covering the middle third, and a lot of different ways. So things I wanted to throw at you guys. We talked about cover 3 cloud last time. One corner takes a third, which would generally be the boundary side would take the third. So basically all that would mean is if the ball's on the right hash, that corner that has less space to cover would take a third. And the other safety, since they're farther off the line of scrimmage and have a lesser chance of getting beat, they're going to take the other 2, or they're going to take the other 2/3, basically. The field side towards that. So that's basically all that cloud coverage means is one corner's taking a third, or one corner's taking a third. The other 2 safeties are going to take the other 2/3. Cover 3 buzz, which we'll also see from Nebraska, is one of the safeties is going to play in the hole, which we talked about the hole, right? Covering right there. Here, I'll pull it back up. Playing in the hole. Then the other 2 corners are going to take the 2 outside thirds. You'll generally see them at least 6, 7 yards off the line of scrimmage if that's the case. A couple other terms I wanted to throw at you with just man free, which is basically our cover 1 is that free safety. But if I call it man free, that's cover 1. The other term I wanted to throw at you was bracket coverage or bracketing. It's just, all that means is a safety and corner is doubling. Generally, the corner, you'll see this a lot with outside receivers or even a really dangerous slot. And all that really means is the corner's generally going to take the outside leverage. The safety will take the inside leverage, and they're basically just doubling and trying to keep them from getting the ball, but you're attacking that from 2 different directions. Okay. And that was our last slide. So let me do this. Oh, you don't want me in the corner. You guys want to see my face, right? So like I said, I know that's very basic, but I just wanted to throw out a couple terms for you guys.